Today, I'm joined by Zoe, the voice behind Get Good with Horses. I just love the tag name. So, through her online training, she also has a fantastic podcast. Zoe has been teaching and inspiring horse lovers around the world to build better skills, stronger bonds, and lasting partnerships with their horses. Her approach, if I'm correct, is about empowering riders to understand that their horses a little bit more deeply than just from the riding perspective and create these relationships that truly last. Zoe, thank you so much for joining us today. And I would love to ask you, get straight into the deep stuff. Where did your story with horses begin?
Oh, so I don't know if you know, but I was a Pirelli professional in the past for 9 years.
Mhm.
And that all came about because of my horse at the time, Mia, 900 kilo Irish Warmblood. And she was the first horse in my life that just really presented challenges and was like saying no to pretty much everything that I did. So I went off on the journey to discover, because there was nobody in my immediate circle who could help me with this horse unless it was violent or using things that I just completely could not submit her to. So I went on the journey of traveling America here and there for 2 years, learning how to get good with horses. Um, and then in 2019, I left the Pirelli program and started to go out in the field on my own. But I felt a bit lost because I didn't have anywhere that I could send my students for information. So that's actually how Get Good with Horses evolved. So I could start to build a place where I could give them information which they needed in order to progress and become the best human they can be for their horses, but in a little bit my own way. So I like to think of the Get Good with Horses is like a pot of the good stuff, but it's also very realistic, very because that's what I missed in my training was one, having someone that I could rely on to ask questions, and two, not just going straight to the fancy magical stuff, really getting in, digging deep, and looking in the mirror who I am as a person. Who did I need to become for that horse? Well, it certainly wasn't the girl that was standing in front of her. I really had to change my mindset, my skill set, and just really learn how to get good. So the Get Good name actually comes from her, in the sense of, yeah, learning everything that I'm now sharing with everybody today through my socials and my platform.
I love the way you're straight into it. She was mirroring the person you were back then.
Yes.
I'm going to go one step further
Yeah.
before we go into where you are today, because a lot of us, a lot of listeners can relate to that initial frustration of my horse is clearly not right, whether it's soundness, but all we know as people who own horses and love horses is that something isn't right. We feel it in our gut.
Yeah.
When we get told everything is fine, but the behavior is still there, can you share with us that, if you remember, that frustration with Mia originally?
Yeah, of course. For me personally, I really was digging deep and in completely an unconfident place. Like, what am I doing wrong? I complete blame, blame, blame. That helped. But one of the things that concerned me the most was during her training, was I hadn't realized at the time that perhaps she was in pain. Okay, so the body was also struggling to be able to cooperate with me and function as a partner. So it was during that process as well that I also invested in body workers, and we did indeed find tightness in her shoulders and stuff like that. And when we start to help her let go of that, because I believe that was linked to the mind and also what I was actually doing with her, the two were clashing. So we had to get my skills better and keep the horse healthy, and that was really a kind of a game changer for me in how I started to look at what I was doing. Does that make sense? Maybe I've gone off rail a little bit there. But
Totally, totally. And just to ask you, from the your therapist side, was there specific patterns that kept coming back to why you recognize that, oh, something isn't right here from the body perspective? Or what, do you mind sharing more of us? Because
Sure,
a lot
yeah.
of people say to me, well, my body worker has checked my horse and or surely they should be fine. They've had the body worker already, the quick,
Yeah.
it's had one treatment.
Yeah, this is really nice because I'm getting lots of inspiration now for a future sharing. But indeed, at that time, what I've learned to do when I meet a horse is really first assess the face and assess the neck. And what I didn't see or know at that time was the upside down neck. The brachiocephalicus muscle on my horse at that time was so tight. And of course, just like us, if our shoulders are tight, it's going to create tensions and problems in the rest of our body. So not only was her brachiocephalicus tight like a rock, it was overbuilt, and that led, of course, straight into her shoulders. And sometimes when I touched her shoulders, she would not be super happy about it. Do you know what I mean? So that was where the link as well. And of course, in my training, she had a lot of brace in her body. So I had to learn really quickly to learn how to get soft myself in order to bring that softness out in her, in order to have hands that open quickly to release on the slightest thought, even an ear towards me. And it was so, I'll never forget the day, because I just stood there crying, because it was like all of a sudden everything just came together. Not only was she soft, I was soft. We both had this kind of understanding. And from there on, and also at the time, I had a masseuse for her and a chiropractor. And in the end, they were telling me what I wanted to hear. I don't need to see you now unless something comes up. So indeed, there was I would say straight down the middle, 50-50% of it was, how she felt in the world and how she was being trained. And the other 50% was also who she was at that time. So we had to change that and make it better, so to speak.
And I know I'm going slightly off piece here, but I'm just following on from what you're saying. So you're working with the horse and you're like, okay, she's feeling better. Like I recognize from what therapists are saying that when I do touch this point of the shoulder, she's showing me some way that she's uncomfortable, the upside down neck. This is all making sense. But what in you, in Zoe back then went, oh, is it me? Am I,
Oh,
am I, when did that switch happen? Because that's pretty powerful that you're probably taking for granted to the person you are today.
yeah, I remember that very clearly. It was 2007, and I went out to the pasture to capture her, and rather than her running towards me because she wanted to come to me to say hi, she ran at me with a charge where I literally had to jump over the fence to get out. And alarm bells are going, oh my goodness, she hates me. It's really like this horse is. And then I heard that she was actually doing that to other people. So that's when the pain thing started to resonate. I didn't know it at that time, but I was like, something's missing here. And the person back then, I didn't have anybody around me to support me. So I was just a sad, miserable mess. And I remember coming home to my husband and I said, that's it. She's for sale. I don't want her anymore. She doesn't want me. And we went to New Zealand for a trip. And then while we was there, my husband encouraged me to continue with the Pirelli training. Just give it one more chance. Just give it a try. Really get in there and really study. And I'm so grateful for that, because that's exactly what I did, and it changed my life. Really, I literally went from someone who worked in an office 5 days a week, 8-10 hours a day, to someone who would dream looking out the window wanting to work with horses, and that actually became my reality thanks to this horse. So does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
brings up a lot of like feeling in myself as well. And also I often say to people like the horses find you. Sometimes I'll get, oh, can you look out for this kind of horse for me? And I'm like, yeah, I'll keep an eye out. But I also know they're going to find you and they're going to mirror you and they're going to give you the lesson that you need to hear. And it's tough. And
Yeah,
sometimes it feels, as you beautifully said, like you just want to pack it in. Like you
yeah,
hear this in all aspects of life, like when you've hit rock bottom and you're just like, I'm giving up. That's it.
Yeah.
She's for sale, even though you're like, I don't want to sell her, but I feel like I have to. And then something switches and something comes into your peripheral where you're like, yeah,
Yes.
okay, one last try.
And that's why I think it's so important to have, like, at that time, it was just my husband. I didn't really have anyone around to help with this horse, nor did they want to. Um, it's important to have the right people around you as well to support you and to just, give it a chance, because at the end of the day, the horses are such intelligent, beautiful animals. I can't put into words even how magical they are. And they're so soft and loyal, they would not hurt us without good reason. And I think what we can do is just at least give 10% of that back. And what I find, unfortunately, is that that's just not the way that people look at horses. Still, we've got a long ways to go. It is changing. Social media, I mean, when I see on my socials just the last 2 months, oh, there's a humongous amount of people out there that are creating a new community of how we look at horses in this other way that's not traditionally trained. But we've still got a lot of work to do, and that's not going to happen in my lifetime, I believe, where we can really make an impact. But, people like yourself who invite me on to the podcast, that's already one extra piece to start putting these messages out there. And I think it's really valuable. One little extra piece I would like to add there, which is entering my mind now, is that, we want to treat the horse with respect and be loyal in return, but it shouldn't be an excuse for lack. Do you know what I mean? Lack of progress, lack of having an excuse. Yeah, my horse stepped on my foot. Blah, blah, blah. It's not about that. I don't want to create an kind of idea that we're all soppy, kissy, smoochy, smoochy, because we must respect the horse as a species. They are, at the end of the day, a horse, and they really are so honest. If we keep our communications and what we're teaching them crystal clear, they give that back. They reflect that back. Horses, from my experience so far, and I'm 50 this year, do not like fluff, and they do not do good on grey. It's got to be black and white. And when we have that intention and focus towards the horse, they give that exactly back.
Well said, and totally agree. Where do you think we've gone slightly off piece to forgetting this loyalty and honesty with horses? Because many years ago, they were man's best friend. I know the dog's a man's best friend, but they used to go to war. You see these pictures of horses in the trenches, like lying next to
Yeah,
their
that's
guy.
amazing.
Like I can't help but cry whenever I see this because I'm like, oh,
How did they do that?
like it's there. So where do you think we've, as an industry, gone down this route of pressure, force?
Yeah.
Even the word control or leader nowadays, I used to think it was leadership.
Yeah, I
Like,
try to stay away from that word now. Yeah, it's funny, eh?
be with it, because I think I can't lead this powerful animal, but I'm a partner in it, and I
Hmm.
can be a better version of me for this animal. So, yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts. Where have we gone wrong?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it's to do with around the First World War, when back in that time we were still using horses for jobs. They pulled carriages, they were taxis, they delivered the post. And then, of course, cars came and machinery and stuff like that. So back then, it would only be really the very rich or the military that owned horses, and farmers. And then, even then, the horses were really, they had a job. They were fed, they did their job. They had very few horses with people problems because these horses were fed right and they did things with them. And then, of course, horses started to become pets, and sports evolved, and dressage and show jumping and eventing. Now, I'm not against the sports at all. I just think we need to look at the welfare changes and move with the times, move with what people are really seeing and wanting. So I think, like, if we look at dressage tests back in even not too long ago, the 70s, 80s, it's a very different picture to what we're seeing today. It's like these horses are just designed to have these very mega hyper flex movements, and they fall apart at the age of 8 because they're just meant to move this way. So again, oh, I'm a human, but I just think we are so destructive in the way we do things. And unfortunately, the horse has fallen into that category. But thanks to social media, we can capture that. We can start to say, no, 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 there is another way. And I don't care if they think I'm a wussy wussy tree hugging voodoo anymore. It used to bother me, but now I think no, because my horse is standing right in front of me and gives me this presence back and gives me this. It's like he's in my blood and thinks my thoughts. I'm like, you can do that. Okay, it might look pretty cool on camera, but you're not really into the horse. You don't really know who horses are. They're just a tool. And what I love now about social media is that people are starting to see that horses are so much more, and there are amateurs out there performing dressage on neck ropes at a much higher level than Grand Prix. And the little bit of the change in the world right there, which is going back to what your question was, is that a lot of people think that when you ride a horse on a neck rope in a collected way, they think it's a trick. But I want to know who was the first person to turn around and say, hey, you must have iron in the mouth, you must have their connection to the bit, and you must have a long leg in order for the horse to carry you in true collection. Who said that? Because the horse already knows how to collect its body. We've just got to learn to sit on that and not get in their way. So there's this uniform idea implanted in our heads through books, through videos, for years and years and years, even on the TV, of what we are told it should look like. But actually, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Let's start looking at the alternative and really putting the welfare of the horse first.
Zoe, I think it was the same person who decided to make competition breeches white.
Yes.
It was
Why would we do that?
definitely was not a
The
girl and she
worst.
was on a period at the time.
Yes, the
I
worst.
think it was the same thought process there.
Yeah. So yeah, the military, and then we all had people started to have horses as pets, and of course, all the aunts and uncle, or mostly uncles or fathers or grandfathers, started to teach their family members how to do everything on the left, military way, because it was organized, it was quick. And the left side thing, I really try to encourage my students to work with the horse on both sides. The horses get too confident on the left, and then we have to do something on the right side of the horse, and the horse is all wincy and jumpy. We really must get that balance. So there's a lot of traditional things that actually are quite damaging for the horse in the long term. And people are aware of it. They even know it. I mean, the amount of horses I've taught that, they only lunge to the left. And then they're like, I can't get it to go to the right. It's because you never go to the right. You have to, and I give them the tools to start to teach the horse to go to the right. And then the coin drops. Then they start to realize, actually, I put the bridle on the left always, and I put the saddle on the left always, and I get on the horse's back on the left always. So this is a military trained thing. And I believe back in the days when the Romans were ruling the world almost, that left side thing wasn't there. I think they just got on the horse how and whether if they were a right-handed swordsman, they got on the left. If they were a left-handed swordsman, they got on the right. There was really, you know what I mean? So that's where I think the world has evolved and changed.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. I remember I grew up in South Africa,
Oh
and
yeah.
my pony growing up was bareback riding, bridleless, learning how to stay on. I don't even think we used a mounting block, but it was never a case of left-sidedness. So
Yeah.
I've also thought about this for a while, and I think also where, as a human species, which reflects in our horses, is we've lost the curiosity,
Yes.
lost the
Yeah.
ability to ask a question.
Yeah.
Maybe because of whatever's happened also in history, but I also find from when I'm helping people better understand their horses from the pain perspective, I'm always saying, ask questions. Don't take what I say as matter of fact. You know your horse better than anyone. You know your horse better than I do. I'm an external coming in, seeing a picture, assessing pattern, but you know them really well. So start asking some more questions.
Yeah, love that.
Let's start that curiosity mindset going, because we came in as kids, like into the world, happy and look
Yeah, that's right.
asking questions and failing and laughing about it and keep going and yeah, I love the way you explained it though. I'd like to ask, what are the core skills you believe every rider should prioritize first before they want to improve their relationship with a horse?
Ooh, I could talk an hour about that. um, Let me see. Well, I call them general skills, and this is like a pot of just you know, a lot of people they just put the halter on the horse's head. How about we invite the horse to put the halter on its head? Really just working on their timing and feel.
Mm.
Because we're humans, we've got an opposable thumb, we're taught to grab. You just spoke about when we was little kids and we was curious, we were also taught to grab and pull. So our first instinct with horses is just to grab them under the chin and pull them. So I really tried to get people to think about that and really change their yeah, intention around horses. The skills for me that really are paramount actually for the horse to survive safely in a man-made world are teaching them to lead by our side on both sides, left and right, to stop, to back, to move over sideways, to move the hindquarters over, and to move the shoulders over. These are very simple skills. Actually, it takes a little bit of practice, but these skills are already getting our bodies and our motor skills better in order to actually help the horse when it does have troubles. And then mindset and focus are super important because a lot of people use their horses as a therapist, which is it's not a bad thing, but I don't encourage people burdening their horses with their problems every single day. The horses do not deserve that. So while I appreciate, and I do that myself, sometimes I've had a terrible day and I've just buried my neck in my face into my horse's neck and had a good old cry, but I'm not going to do that every single day. So mindset and focus is super important. And having, if you admire someone and they've got a way of sharing their information with you, go study it. Go spend the money and buy the program. Go and read their books, read their blogs. There's a lot of free resources out there, and actually study. It is so important because what I see is a lot of people guessing. They'll watch kind of their idol on Instagram or YouTube, and they'll try to emulate that. And it's the why is missing, a lot of the how is missing, and they're just trying to emulate. It's like, no, what we got to do is really learn the why and study how, learn how to hold the rope, learn how to hold the stick. Where is our belly button? Where is our shoulders? It's a lot, but it's not, because if your brain is open like a sponge and you really want to learn that, you're going to take it in and then you have to practice. And there's many time in even just yesterday, actually, somebody said to me, "Oh, you're so good." In such a way that they should actually be able to do what I do, but without practicing. And that for me is one of my pet hates, because it's like, yes, I do put a lot of time and effort and emphasis on my study and practice. I also learned how to practice in my head when I'm driving the car. I'm thinking about it constantly. So my question back to them is, are you? And most of the time they're not. So I kind of gone off a little bit off of your question there, sorry. But yeah, these are the main things I really think horses need to survive in our world safely, but also is of great value for humans to learn. And then of course it's the same in the saddle. Most people ride horses and they haven't tested the brakes, and that's usually when accidents happen.
Mm.
And
Mm.
having a good braking system is not as difficult as it sounds. It's just understanding how the horse's body works, and that laterally, if we keep the horse supple, you're going to have a better braking system than a horse that's been taught to lean into pressure with two reins and learned to keep their body straight. You're just building strength into a straight horse. So for me, a supple horse is a safe horse, and that's actually what I encourage in the riding part of the general skills, so to speak.
Mm. So what do you think are the common mistakes that you've seen that riders are making when they focus on doing more? You know, like you said, are we jumping too quickly? Are we
Yeah,
not literally jumping? Are we just
yeah.
a few steps?
Yeah, I think it's very important to understand where you're going. What the end picture looks like is always important, but sometimes people want to get to the end picture way too quickly. So even with an advanced horse, and I'm introducing a new exercise, I'm going to break that down like an ABC, build it to a word, build it to a sentence, and then eventually we can have a conversation. And that horse might be mega skilled in one thing, but now it's got to learn a new thing. So people go too quickly. It's really this, if you slow down and just really understand the why, the how, and get your skills better, you actually get there quicker. And not only do you get there quicker, you get there with a much higher quality and a much more thankful horse because they love to have things to explain to them. And I know for sure they're puzzle solvers. They love to figure out puzzles.
Really resonate with that. And I think it's tempting to, even for those of us that have maybe been fortunate enough to buy a horse that has quote unquote all the buttons. Oh, it has competed at this level already, so it should be able to go do it at that level. And
Yes.
I'll always say, bearer of bad news is spend at least, a good 2 months just getting to know them because it might have been able to do these movements or quite these, whatever the discipline with that rider. It doesn't make you any less, but
Mhm.
you as a person are different. We're different. We were going to communicate things totally differently. We might be saying the same thing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's difficult because, I've seen many a good horse actually, for the lack of better words, deteriorate because the human just didn't have the skill set and they pay a lot of money for this horse. But and then who gets blamed? The
Mm.
horse. I used to take in horses for training, but I actually stopped because it's me that's training the horse. Not to say that I'm the best and I'm perfect and everything. It's just that the horse got to know me, like what you just said, and the skills and communication that I'm giving the horse. But the human's not around. They've got to learn this. So what I do offer now is like I'll do intense training with you 3, 4 days a week, but you're doing the training. I'm just going to be standing there and helping you because the person has to know what they're doing. Of course, what you spoke about there, the relationship and the bonding and building repertoire together and getting to know each other's buttons, that's absolutely important. But there's no point buying a Grand Prix horse if you're just I don't know, a beginner stage rider. You see that quite often. And you also see people that are straight out of the riding school getting their first horse and they have no clue and things go wrong pretty fast. So I always say I encourage them to actually share a horse for a while. Really, 3, 4 days a week, become a carer, learn how they are fed and what it takes, the time to actually really commit to taking care of a horse. Do you want to be outside when it's pouring with rain and there's thunder and lightning? Because I tell you, you have no choice sometimes. You have to do that. And people don't realize the commitment. But saying that, all that said, I can't think of anything more rewarding and more fulfilling than that. I'd much rather be out there in the thunder and lightning than sitting on the couch watching Netflix every night. It's just such a beautiful gift when we're able to do that.
Really, I actually have another question to follow on for that, but I'm going to leave it to the end because can you share your journey either about Lenny or Benny? Like, tell us a little bit more about how you've built, because I watched some of your videos, and for those
Yeah,
who can go see you on Instagram, like the communication, it's looks, first of all, it's non-verbal, which is more powerful anyway, because humans want to talk about everything and you
yeah,
must be, I must be heard. And we know that these horses can hear us whisper, they can move at a fly landing on them. They're sensitive, they're always there. So do you mind sharing a little bit more personal stories with you and either one of your two horses?
yeah. That's really nice. So Lenny is my blood of my blood, and Benny is my heart of my heart, and I tell them that every single day. Um, It's funny because I just thought of something and it's left my head now. Oh, bugger. Doesn't matter. So Lenny, of course, people actually think that I work with him for hours every day, and I just super busy training all the time. I'm lucky if I get to train him 4 hours a week. Sometimes I have 20 minutes a day. I always do the general care, of course, the feeding, the grooming, but we're not mega training hard every single day, especially not the last 5 years since I started the platform. It's just that I did put enough time and hours and work in him between his first year when I got him up until around the age of 9, where I know I can just rely on him. We can do everything together from La Garrocha to working equitation to firing an archery, firing an arrow from his back, cutting cows. I put all this time and effort and went to clinics and traveled across Europe to do that with him. So I know even if I haven't done a working equitation course for 3 years, I can go in there and pick right up where we left off because I explained to him from the ABCs all the way through to the conversation, and the horse will never forget conversation. It's so valuable. Lenny, I knew from the moment I saw him, he was wild. He was just imported from Ireland, and the girl called me to come and help her tame these two Connemara colts. You had Lenny and you had Johnny, which was his half brother. And as soon as I got out of the car, I just thought, wow, oh my gosh. It was like he had a face. I just knew his face from somewhere in a previous life. He had to be mine. So long story short, he became mine, and he had the best of me at that time from what I learned from my Mia, and then more so. He's also been just as big a teacher as she was, in the sense that he is incredibly timid. He's incredibly shy, and you wouldn't think that on camera. But if you look close enough, you will see this character. I have to take care of his confidence constantly, and that's also a very important part about training. Is I don't like it when people promise that you can make your horse bomb-proof. I don't like these promises because it's actually either a lie or they're just teaching the horse to go in shut down. They're not designed to become this brave animal. That's not who they are by design and nature. But what we do is we just build layers of confidence. And that's what I have to do with my Lenny constantly. So even in periods like the summer now, I was lucky if I could play with him, work or train 4 days a week. That's always in the back of my mind, taking care of his confidence and taking care of our bond. Oh, that was it. That's what I wanted to talk about, the voice. So I do use keywords. I have perfect, which means keep doing what you're doing, but don't stop moving your feet. If they've really learned something new or really got something that we've, been having conversations about, I'll have jackpot. That really means quit doing what you're doing. Here's a goodie. And then I have amazing, which is kind of an in-between. Okay, we're there, we're almost close, but for the most part, I am silent. And I encourage your listeners now, the next time they're at the stables or at their barn, to just listen, because horses actually live in a very quiet world. The only time they use their voice is actually when they're stressed or they're calling for their friends because they're stressed, or the final man-made one is via routine when they're looking for their slave to bring their food. So most of the time they are silent. So I actually encourage my students, especially the talkers, that every step the horse makes is come on, and they're talking to the horse, and it's not necessary when we remove the voice. We go silent, then the horse has an opportunity to actually tune into our inner self and our mindset and our focus and hear the body language. I also use clicks. I have 1 click for trot and 2 clicks for canter, but they're very quick and subtle. And then I use them more of a reinforcer. So if I've used my energy and used my aid and he didn't hear that through the body language, I'll reinforce with 1 click and it's there. And these are, again, the patterns that if you just keep doing them, they will start to happen. But most of the time, people quit on the moment when something doesn't happen. Oh, it's not working. It's like, no, you have to repeat it as many times as that horse needs in order for it to start to work. You must keep the promise. How do I get my horse to go from halt to canter? Well, I breathe in, I lift my energy, lift my chest. I have an expectation the horse goes, but on the first day, that's not going to happen. It's just that I keep that invitation open and ask the horse, and one day they do it and they know they're right because there'll be a big smile on my face and I'm going to shout out, jackpot, and give them a goodie. So the ABCs are presented in a way that I have a bigger picture in my head of how I want something to look. It's not coming out yet, but the perseverance through the language will start to bring it out. And that's where I think horses have some form of telepathy, connection. I call them the land dolphins. You know, the dolphins of the land. They're able to read and see body language we don't see with our eyes, but they certainly can with theirs, if that makes sense.
100%. And the question I would love to just two questions. One is about you personally with your mindset and approach to being in the state. But the first one is actually, you mentioned he's not very confident by his temperament personality, I'm guessing. Like,
Hmm.
can you share more about how you knew that? Like, how did you, oh, actually realize that he's not really confident by nature, as in, I'm sure the same would be with humans. Some of us are a bit more extroverted, introverted, not maybe not using the right language here, but how did you know? How did you first get that little bit of insight?
Yeah, I mean, he's such a darling. He was absolutely from day one terrified of lead ropes. And then that was when I started to do a bit of digging into his history. So I know he was taken from his mama way too young, 2 months. I have a picture of him in a paddock on his own at 2 months old. Then he was whipped off to market and put into a pen with 6, 7 other yearlings, and they literally super glue sticker to their butts. Super glue, not kids glue, super glue, which literally burns into the skin. He still had scabs on his butt when I took him over. And a kid had apparently set off firecrackers into the pen where they were at market. So he had massive trauma, and then they put them all into a trailer. I think he was with 4, maybe 5 other horses. They take the petition out and they ship them over from Ireland to the Netherlands. And Johnny and Lenny were then brought to a town near me. And the taming process hadn't begun yet. They had halters on with a piece of rope attached where they could just pull them and drag them around. So his first impressions of humans was not very nice. The lady that I bought him from, she went out of her way to really help tame him, but she was having trouble putting a lead rope on. So it was from there I was like, oh, why would he be scared of a lead rope? I don't really know the story why, but it was always when it was in a lateral view by his side. So if I wanted to swing the rope up over his back, he would get so scared, like rabbits in the headlights. So I really had to break that down and show him. Still, sometimes today, if I'm in the ocean with him and the waves come at him sideways, I get that. I can see it. He's like, oh, that's that feeling again. I don't like it. So I'll just turn his nose to the wave and then the lateral movement has gone. But yeah, these were all little, and I did some demonstrations with him, and I knew already on the third demonstrations, in front of a crowd is not for this horse. It's just not for him. He doesn't like the sound of fireworks, and I've really tried to help him with that. But to be honest, the only way I can really train him with fireworks is to actually set fireworks off, and I don't think the neighbors would be very happy with that. I used sounds out of speakers and stuff like that, and applause. I've used every trick in the book to help teach him how to accept the applause, but it's just this trigger again of this trauma where he says, no, 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 I can't do it. So I've promised him actually that I will not expose him to that anymore because there's certain things in life I don't like, and so I'm not going to do them. So I also want to give the horse the choice. If you're not a demo kind of horse, that's your choice. Benny is something else. I think he's going to be my little future demo king because he's all about being in front of the camera, the bravest little soldier I've ever met. And he's just got this completely different charismatic character about him. So I really want to keep my promises to them in that sense. And Lenny, I did have a carer for a little while, for about 4 months, but I stopped because I saw him start to fall apart. They were there, yeah, I'm going on a trail ride. Yeah, okay, you go on a trail ride, but are you going to take care of him? Take care of his needs? Because it only takes once, and then he's going to start to become this unconfident guy. And that's actually, unfortunately, what started to happen. So it's just me and him. I'm going to promise to take care of him.
That's
And that's
beautiful.
who he is as a character. Yeah.
That's
So,
beautiful. It's acceptance for understanding, acceptance, and then respect. I mean,
yes.
as humans, we also have our boundaries and limitations and traumas and experiences. And I think it's Warwick Schiller that says this about being seen, being felt, being heard, and
Exactly.
in that space.
Exactly that.
Mm.
Yeah. Love that.
When it goes into you as a person, in your mindset, you mentioned earlier about one of the skills that riders can adopt or learn to adopt. Were you always this self-aware and honest with
Oh,
your
no.
that it's you? Because I am reminded about this personally so many times with horses. Sometimes they really remind me. But where did it, can you share some of that? Because a lot of us see the version of you today.
hmm
But I'd love to know, like,
Yeah.
what like this?
Oh, I've had to work for this. Listen, I'm a hot Irish blooded girl that was raised in London. And I really had to learn how to stick up for myself. And I was always quite shy. The girl that sat in class, and if the teacher asked you a question, my heart would throb in my neck. Literally, please don't ask me. Quite shy. But on the other side, also okay. You know, I could walk to school by myself. I didn't need someone to hold my hand. But it was when things were confronted on me that I would just melt, and it was actually through the Pirelli program where I learned about posture and mindset, and to just really start to believe in myself, especially, for example, when we did auditions and the camera was switched on. You practice and it was great and the horse was great, and then that camera was on, and then boom, it all fell to poo basically, because your mindset changed and your confidence changed. So my mindset has actually personally evolved from building my self confidence, you know, really getting it to a point where I believe in me. Because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will, and horse sure will not. And that was what my Mia taught me, the biggest lessons. I don't believe in you. You don't believe in yourself. So I'm not going to listen to you anymore. So the mindset part is something that has really transformed and evolved. And actually, I would say more so the last 4 years, where I've really always throughout my life delved in and out of self-improvement, self-development books. I love Tony Robbins. I love Mel Robbins. I love all of these gurus who are really there to help us. Warwick Schiller, I'm also a big fan of him because he's a fan of self-development. Um, but it's all again going back to that study part. When I drive my car, you can guarantee 90% of the time I'm listening to a self-development book. I might not hear it all, but my brain will take in the little pieces that I need, and it will be stored, and I can open that drawer when I need it. But I've really had to work hard. I'm also a highly emotional person. I'm also empathetic, so I have learned the hard way, where people have completely taken advantage of my kindness and really, in some of the most awful ways, tried to destroy me. So I'm like, okay, that's happened. What do I need to do to stop that happening again? And again, it's all going back to self. I question myself. I ask, what do I need to do? I need to get my mindset up. I need to learn more about people. I need to learn about characters. I need to learn about self-belief, discipline. Don't have to apply them all. It's just having awareness of them. Highly emotional in the sense that, yes, if my horse offers me something beautiful, I will stand there and cry. And this is frowned upon by some of the greats, some of the great horsemen out there. You shouldn't have emotions like that around a horse. Well, heck yes, this is who I am. I am going to show my horse how much I am impressed and how much I love you for sharing that moment with me. I was even told off for having teary eyes in front of a horse because I found it so beautiful. So there's always this balance to true self and really taking care of your own mindset. And everybody is unique. There are some people that are just too strong, too bullshit, too confident. Well, they need to learn to tame that down a little bit because not all horses like that. And then you've got the little shy, beautiful people, really shy little mice. Their horses are walking all over them and ripping their jackets. So again, that's the self-development and really unique to each person. So I do study. I'm very open. I'm also very aware of changes. So the person I was last year, she's not quite the same as the person she is this year. And I hope only on a more positive path. I also meditate at least 10 minutes every day. And I'm also learned to be very grateful of what is standing right in front of me. Because being an empath, I can very quickly go down the negative thought path. So what I've learned to do is actually stop that in its tracks and try to look around me, what's happening in front of my face, to stay on a more positive track, if that makes sense. But one promise I've always made to my horses is that I will not take that to them. There are many days where I'm too tired, worn out, been working my butt off with 10 different characters that day. I'm exhausted and I just take care of my horses and go home because I don't want to put that tired feeling of me into them. But that's specific because of what I do. If I had a regular 9 to 5 job and what I would then do is, okay, now I'm going to the horses. They're not my therapist. I'm going there to have fun. And I'm really going to progress and learn. Sometimes they've got to be my therapist. That is what that is. But it shouldn't become an everyday burden. It shouldn't be something we put on them. So mindset is super important, and that's a promise that I make to my horses every single day.
Yeah, I love the openness there, and I resonate on so many levels with that. I'm sure the ladies listening will resonate as well. And I had a thought when you were talking about the emotional side of you, because I have actually also struggled with that myself. And I say struggled because for many years it was you're too emotional, you know,
Yes.
you're too, and I come from a very, my upbringing is survival mentality in South Africa. It's quite a harsh way of living there with the crime. So I've realized that I've almost put on a hat when I am in treatment mode. But as I've done this for the last few years, I'm recognizing that, when a shift happens in a horse, I've noticed more and more it happens in the owner. We all end up crying, and then I'm like, oh, stop crying, stop being emotional. And then just what you were saying there about, you were even told by, we don't mention names, gurus don't cry. I'm also wondering, were they male? Because have emotions. Sorry, men also have emotions, but I mean, women have changing hormones. We have fluctuations within our biology. We have
Absolutely.
these changes that, with the sensitivity of the horses, that, and I'm not a man, so I can't relate. I'm just speaking to what I'm feeling as I'm getting into my 40s. I'm like, I don't think, act, feel the same, look the same from a physical level, which I coupled with getting to a new level. I don't call it an age, I'm reaching a new level. So I'm kind of like, okay, and the changes I'm happening, my horse is going to feel that, my clients are going to feel that, and that comes with some emotion, some weeks, some
Yeah.
weeks easily triggered. And I love the way you said that. I also would love to know the Zoe that promised herself and her horses that she would never take that therapy to them, like, more than once. I think you said sometimes we do it, we hold our hands up, but more than once or a buildup of it is not okay. How did you make that association, that switch? Did Lenny and them show you, no, that's too much? Or was it something that you consciously said that's not fair?
Oh no, this goes back to my Mia again. That's the first thing that jumped in my head. There's lots, but I'm going to go to this one because it's powerful. I wrote a book. It's called The Horse That Broke Two Legs and Survived. It's an award-winning book, and the person that wrote that book, by the way, is not me today. I've really evolved since that person. Not to say that I'm ashamed of the story or anything, but what happened was we found her in the field with a broken leg, and we had to get her down from the field, like almost a 1 kilometer walk, back to the stables. And while I was bringing her back down, the vet was already on their way. And in the end, we got her on the trailer, got her to the vet, saw that the knee was completely chipped off, gone, and her leg was hanging like a like a crab's leg, you could say. And we had three things we could do. One is we could wait for the inflammation to go down and then operate. Two was to operate immediately, and the third was to put her to sleep. So I went for the first option, of which then I also got a second opinion from a vet. And he said, let's just see if it starts to heal. It did after 3 months, and it wasn't very nice. She was in a stable. I explain about that in the book. Indeed, after 3 months, the knee bone was actually starting to grow back. I mean, that's a whole nother subject in itself. But anyway, what happened was I got really sad and depressed. I got really emotional. I was devastated. My teacher, my professor, my muse, my beauty, my darling was now in a stable with a broken leg. How did we get to this point? So I was this sad, pathetic, well, not pathetic, rightly heartbroken person walking around, and I have pictures of this on my social media on Facebook, I believe, of every single day her hair got duller, her muscles started to deteriorate, and most importantly, the spark in her eye started to disappear. And I was like, my God, she's just going to die being in this stable for however long this is going to take. So I never forget it. It was Sunday night, and I was like, Zoe, you got to practice what you preach, girl. You're going there every day being this sad, negative presence for her. How about tomorrow you pick yourself up, you get into that good place, and you go and greet her like there's nothing wrong with her. So that's exactly what I did. And I swear to you, by that afternoon, the shine was back in her coat and the spark was back in her eye. I was teaching her to feel sick. I was putting this on her. And you can imagine if you've got someone around you that's always treating you like that, that's how you're going to feel. So that's why it's so important to really choose your support network. And I was being the wrong support network for her in that moment. So going back to your question, there's always this balance of positive and negative. If I'm training with a horse, of course, I want to be positive as much as possible. And sometimes that positive is so nice, it comes out with tears in your eyes. And that's the way I see emotions. If I'm so happy and joyful, it's positive. I'm much rather that than someone who's standing there, yeah, but this and yeah, but that, and then just constantly projecting negative. I think horses are very good at picking up on both. I meet a lot of horses that are shut down or completely disinterested or decide to take their humans skiing because they can't wait to get far, far, far away from their people. So positive and negative energy is kind of what we must think about when we're around them. And going back to I don't want to be my horse's therapist every day because that's going to be a constant projection of negative energy. You know what I mean? So it's not fair on them. So I've got to balance much higher the positive. So
Yeah.
that's that.
And thanks for sharing that. It's so powerful, just even by that afternoon, seeing the change in her. I mean, I got shivers when you were saying it. I was like, yeah, and also made me think of personally many times that I've seen the change when I've changed my posture energy, but also I've seen it when I've had a long day and I've maybe someone said, "Oh, fit one more in," and I go and show up to that yard exhausted, and I felt leaving it. I haven't done the best that I can because of
I hear you.
I
Yeah.
showed up.
Yeah.
And that was similar experiences where I was like, I had to decide to myself and promise that to myself, and then promise that to the horses of the future or the horses that I will be meeting or am meeting, that it's a non-negotiable. Look after yourself and take
Yeah.
responsibility for how you show up. But I love the words that you used. I'm very aware that we're coming up to the hour, but I do have two questions to ask you. If you could change one thing about the equestrian industry to help horses and riders build better partnerships, what would it be?
I think horsemanship, good, real good horsemanship starts when ego ends. When we remove the ego of man, it just eliminates so many things that the horse does not require or need in order to be their best self. So I would love people to just be more open to what we just spoke about: mindset, focus, self-development. It doesn't have to be obsessive. It just, just for some awareness. Because I think that's what's going to, in the end, transform horsemanship, how we see it. We're seeing it already. I only follow people that I really admire and aspire, and I'm inspired by. All the rest is rubbish. I don't even go on Facebook anymore because I can't control my feed. I have to watch politics and stuff. I really love Instagram because you have a bit of a control over that. So you are what you feed yourself. Food through your eyes, through your brain, through your ears. So that's where I want to see a change in the horse industry. Let's start to synergize a little bit and start to bring together all of the best parts that is in the horse's best interest. And then I think we can make our way forwards. The best horses are hidden under the humans that we must become in order for the horse to,
The best
become
horses
the
hidden under the humans we are becoming.
yes.
Love it.
Thank
Down
you. So yeah, that's in a nutshell, of course.
Well said.
Thanks.
What's the one lesson a horse has taught you that you couldn't have learned anywhere else?
One lesson. Yeah, it would be my Mia again. Um, she I told you that she used to chase me out of the field, and still after I developed my relationship with her, she was still doing that with other people. So it's like, okay, I actually call it the Mia complex because sometimes I meet horses that are really okay with their humans, but if another human starts to do things with their horse, their horse gets scared or bitey or unsure, confused. And Mia really taught me that. And I actually made sure, especially with my Lenny, that I didn't create this thing. So she actually had needle phobia, and I could give her injections with a lot of practice with a toothpick and a syringe, and her not trying to attack me and releasing when she was soft and stuff like that. And but the vet couldn't, except for one. And this woman, she kind of had exactly the same height as me, the same stature, the same mannerisms. We could almost be sisters. We couldn't be because she's Dutch, I'm English. And it was all in her mannerisms and the way, and she just went up to that horse, put the needle in the neck, found the artery, and drew the blood. Artery, vein, drew the blood. And I was like, oh my God, you're like the first vet that's ever done this. How is this possible? She said, I just didn't really think about it. I just did it. So the horse picked up on yeah, there was no intention behind what she was doing. She was just being. And Mia taught me this constantly about how to be in the present moment, have an expectation, but keep it a little bit tucked away because that can create too much pressure on the horse. So it's these lessons actually that I cannot learn from a book. It's really experience and being open to ask yourself questions. Like you said earlier, people don't ask enough questions. Be willing to fail, be willing to suck for a very long time until you start to get good. That's where the get good is, because I'm not teaching people to get great. I'm teaching them to get good enough, because in the horses world, that's already better than if we are not. Does that make sense? I think I've gone a little bit off of your question. But yeah, I guess the main thing is what horses have taught me is that you've got to get in there, you've got to get your hands dirty, you've got to experiment, you've got to fall over sometimes, you've got to get up, you've got to cry, you've got to be angry, and then eventually that will all come together into your own personal pot of greatness. And that's because you've only tried to get good along the way.
Yeah, thank you so much, and really appreciate what you've shared today, how open you've been, and if people want to find you, where can they find you?
Yeah, my tag is at Get Good with Horses. So if you put that in any search engine, you're going to find my platform and my social media pages and my podcast.
I'll pop the links in the description below anyway, but just want to say a huge thank you.
You're welcome, Nika. Thank you for having me.